Todd, thank you very much for joining us. My very first question is because you just got back from Pakistan, and I'm sure, I mean, you are the man who knows what ground reality is as far as the relief efforts are concerned. How do you see post-earthquake scenario taking place in Pakistan?
Well, the biggest problem right now, I mean, I think that the reconstruction effort is getting cranked up, but it's going to take a while to rebuild, obviously. The schools, it seems like the schools are at least in tents where the children are going to schools. But the biggest problem is the medical services. A lot of the NGOs that worked so hard and did such an admirable job during the acute phase, subacute phase, and winter phases are now packing up and going home. 800 doctors from Cuba, the U.S. Army MASH hospital left. These types of organizations and institutions that are leaving are going to leave a void in the medical services because the medical infrastructure that existed before is not yet rebuilt. So there's going to be a 6-month to year-long period where many people are going to not have the services they need, and that's why I'm going back to form a new organization to assist some of the people in the high and remote areas.
I don't understand. People say that this is one of the biggest natural disasters Pakistan has ever seen, and the effects can be compared to, can be doubled compared to Katrina and what happened in tsunami. Why are they leaving now when they're mostly needed at this point? Why is everyone backing off out of Kashmir and out of Pakistan?
Well, I think in many cases the true emergency of people living or dying is in fact over. But there is a problem of primary care. When people don't have a hospital to go to, people can die then too. It might not be on the scale that they were afraid of before during the acute phase when the kinds of injuries were so severe, and the winter where they were afraid people would die of disease and exposure to the elements. But they may be leaving because their funds have maybe depleted. The attention of the world is not on this as much. Maybe they are, going back to reconfigure or readjust their mission. Maybe they don't have as many supplies anymore or funds, so they're trying to pull back so that they can save some of that. But it's definitely needed. There's still a lot of people that need primary health care that won't get it when these people pull out.
Who do you think were the most affected?
Easily the children. It was the most devastating things that I've ever seen or had to deal with personally. The injuries to children were just horrific, and it was like a miracle when we would see a child that wasn't hurt early on, because so many were that we saw. Gangrene infections, compound fractures, skull wiped away by falling bricks, and just the most awful types of things. So while what I saw at Katrina and the tsunami was bad, it wasn't anything like what I saw and as far as human suffering of the children. In the tsunami, a lot more people died, but they were killed by the wave rather quickly, and more people survived with horrific injuries, I think, in this disaster. And I would say that it's probably, it's certainly the worst disaster I've ever seen and been a part of responding to. And it may, I'm sure that the facts bear out that it's one of the worst disasters, not only in Pakistan, but in the history of the world.
Schools are down, hospitals are destroyed. What's going to happen? I mean, the kids are suffering, and people are backing off, and I mean, it clearly seems that the future is kind of a blur. Where do you think this is going to lead to?
Well, I would hope that somehow, some way, this would get back into the public consciousness worldwide. And if it does get back into the public consciousness worldwide, then maybe they will bring forth more effort, more funds, more resources to helping the affected peoples. But unfortunately, it has gone off the radar screen of most of the international press, and it's unfortunate because press coverage, so that people are informed and are kept up to speed and are reminded of what's going on there, is how the efforts to collect funds and resources will be successful. That's what's needed, and unfortunately, it may not happen.
Why do you think the local Pakistani media and international media has completely lost interest in the earthquake relief work in Pakistan?
I don't know. I I'm not an expert in those types of things, except to say that maybe there's some. I know in this country there may be some disaster fatigue. There's been so many disasters. A lot of people have given to all three, or given what they could to the efforts in the tsunami, Katrina, and the earthquake, and maybe it's not only financial donor fatigue, but it's actually the bad news associated with disasters. Maybe people are trying to escape from it. Maybe the press isn't as interested. Without their help in bringing it to the world's attention, these people will continue to suffer.
What about the misconception, quickly, if you can explain the misconception between Pakistan and American people? What can you comment on that?
I can just say that I was greeted very warmly and treated in a very hospitable manner. It was quite humbling. You would go up to the highest mountain peaks and people would offer you tea and give you whatever they had, even though they had nothing. And everywhere I went throughout the country, I was appreciated for what I did and was treated well. And I think that it's probably just human nature. 2% of everybody has a bad behavior or bad people or whatever. And unfortunately, they report on that 2% and make it appear as though it's the reality. So the misconception is that, yes, these bad things do happen. They happen here, they happen everywhere. It's human nature everywhere. But 98% or whatever the percentage is, most people are good and they want to live in peace and they're good, decent people. And that's what I found most of the people I met in Pakistan.
My last question would be, do you think Pakistan is ready for another disaster like this? We know that there were some jitters in Gilgit recently. Do you think Karachi or Lahore could be hit by such a disaster? Do you think the country is prepared?
Well, after taking a hit like what happened, of course, the resources have been used, and you have to readjust and get your resources back to a level to respond to something like this. So I'm sure that it would be very difficult if something like that happened right now. But in speaking of Karachi or Lahore, they don't have the mountainous terrain. Karachi's on the water, so it's a port. Supplies could get there easier. The really tough thing about the earthquake that just happened in October is the terrain, the very difficult logistical difficulties and nightmares of getting supplies there and helping the people there. I don't know if Pakistan's prepared for another calamity. I don't know if anyone would ever be prepared for that kind of calamity, but they certainly need to plan for it and do what they can, because it may happen. And but it would be easier logistically in a flat area that's near water. Certainly, just wouldn't be as difficult with the logistical end of it.
Todd, we thank you very much for joining us, and we wish you all the best and in your future endeavors going back to Pakistan and helping the people over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.